We've already seen Sean Payton and Russell Wilson get together during Super Bowl week. That was for dinner. How will it translate onto the field next season? We'll answer that today. Welcome into the studio. I'm Phil Milani alongside Sidney Jones and Eric Dalala. Guys, Sean Payton, widely considered an offensive genius, maybe the perfect man to come in here and help Russell Wilson. How do you see those two working together? How will Sean get the most out of Russ next season?
Well, Phil, it's like you said. I mean, head coach Sean Payton has so much experience in this league, has an extensive track record with quarterbacks. I mean, he was part of one of the, I think, most prolific, head coach quarterback duos that this league has seen. So I don't think there's any doubt that Sean Payton can get the most out of Russell Wilson. But I think it comes down to what he said in his press conference. He's going to look to highlight Russell Wilson's strengths and minimize Russell's weaknesses. So, if you look what he did back with Drew Brees in the Saints, he built an offensive system around what Drew was good at. So I think he'll come in and he'll do the same thing here with Russell, evaluate his tape and see, kind of what schemes Russ feels most comfortable with. And, I'm excited to see what that could be.
When you take a look at those Saints teams, 15 years he coached there. 9 of those seasons, the Saints were in the top 5 in scoring. Yep. Last year, the Broncos were the worst scoring team in the NFL. It wasn't just last year. They've been in the 20s here the last 6 seasons, Eric. That's got to change next year, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons you hire Sean Payton, right? Obviously, he helps the entire football team, but he's going to help this offense. I look back to his last year in New Orleans when I think he went through 3 different quarterbacks.
Trevor Siemian.
Well, I mean, he's the best of us. But, when you're going through a revolving door there and still manage to rank in the top 20 in scoring, that's an accomplishment. Listen, I think with Russell, Sidney's right. He's going to try to highlight his strengths. And in my mind, what that is using his legs, getting outside the pocket, running some of this read option, RPO type stuff, not trying to always have this precision passing game. Relying on the run game. I think we saw how effective that was when the Broncos did that against the Chiefs and the Chargers late in the year. And then, of course, Phil, you've got to let Russell harness his deep ball ability, even if it's not, there were times last year when, and former head coach Nathaniel Hackett said this, they were too reliant on the deep ball. They wanted to avoid third down, so they just chucked it down the field. Mm-hmm. You've got to avoid that, but still, you've got to find a way to let Russell Wilson take these shots, get the ball down the field to your weapons. I think those are all things that would ideally be a part of a Sean Payton offense that features Russell Wilson. And the last thing, you've got to be better in the red zone. And I think one of the things Sean Payton mentioned during the season this past year was, hey, let's look at all the cut-ups, let's see what he does well, and let's play the hits.
Yeah, exactly. I like the hits. Top 40 radio station maybe next year. Huh?
Exactly.
We've heard Sean Payton, he made his media rounds at the Super Bowl. He said, look, a run game and a good defense are the quarterback's best friends here. So when you look at Russ's teams, when they had a lot of success in Seattle, it was with a good running game. I mean, you think about those Super Bowl runs with Marshawn Lynch. He plays better when he has a good running game, and I think that you saw that transition in New Orleans, too, with Sean Payton and even with Drew Brees there. They were running the ball a lot more toward the end of his tenure in New Orleans. So the running game is going to have to be big next year.
Definitely, Phil. And I think that really hurt the offense this season, just with, the injury to Javonte Williams. And, this running back room looked so different at the beginning of the season than it did at the end of the season. And, of course, Latavius Murray came in and really stepped up and helped this offense where he could. So I think that will be a position they do address, whether that's in free agency or the draft, because we don't know what Javonte's status is. He'll be looking to come back from injury, but he needs somebody else back there with him.
And this is a loaded running back draft class this year. It could be in play for the Broncos. What do you think, Eric? We saw flashes of the old Russell Wilson at the end of the season. Is that the type of thing that Sean Payton's going to try to address?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is going to try to get the old Russell Wilson back. That seems like
That's
a good idea.
Yeah.
Running out of the pocket, throwing the moon balls.
Yeah, get the Russell Wilson that scores touchdowns, wins a lot of games. I think that's a good plan there. Listen, Russell Wilson can do this. I mean, we've seen him throw 40 touchdowns in a year before. We've seen him throw 35 touchdowns in a season, avoid interceptions, move the chains with his legs. Those are all things we know he's capable of. And I know last season was not up to his standards, but I at least don't believe that he's just completely fallen off here and has kind of gone off a cliff in terms of his play. I expect that by the middle of this coming season, I don't know, maybe it takes toward the end of the year, it's never quite as quick as you'd want, but I think we're going to be looking back at the 2022 season and say, maybe it just wasn't a good fit. This wasn't a Russell Wilson problem. And part of that is good coaching. And I think Sean Payton, like you said, whether it's getting him outside the pocket, using his legs, throwing the deep ball, he knows what makes Russell Wilson so good. He's going to, enhance those traits and put them on display.
And when you think of Sean Payton, you always think Drew Brees right off the bat. But, he's worked with a lot of other quarterbacks. Taysom Hill, Terry Collins, Quincy Carter. I mean, these are some of the names that Sean Payton has worked with in all different styles of football. So we'll have to see how this all comes together as the Broncos head into the offseason, make some roster changes, and then before you know it, the offseason program will be here. So that's going to do it for us. For Eric Delisle and Cindy Jones, I'm Phil Milani.